Hey, I just, not planning on starting with this, I have my thing written out. I'm mostly going to read it, so hopefully that goes all right. But before I do that, just to speak to one of Jane's things, my studies was in biology. Study of life is what I went to college for. And when you talk about growth, it is a common thing. In things that are alive, they're growing in some way, shape, or form. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But the main thing that we want to talk on today is that the seasons can be different. And so, with that, if you know me, you might know that I love plants. So, let's talk about plants. Cody's going to be my man back there. Healthy plants, generally speaking, are growing plants. But that is not necessarily all the time. The conditions need to be right. In horticulture, we call this a plant's growing season. Take, for example, an apple tree. Here's a picture of a healthy growing apple tree in the springtime, which is its growing season. The temperature is right, the light is right, the soil is right, so it grows. This tree's growing season will continue into the summer and even the fall, but in each stage, the growth looks different. In the spring, it's flowering, it's growing its leaves and its shoots. In the summer, it's going to focus more on developing the fruit. In the fall, it will change, the focus will change once again to setting buds for the following year. The point is, healthy living plants grow, but even when they're growing, they are focusing energy where it needs to go, depending on where it's at in its growth cycle. Okay, so the growing cycle always ends. This tree is not growing. This is an apple tree in winter. It doesn't mean that this isn't healthy. This tree is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing for the season that it's in. No arborist, horticulturist, etc. would look at this tree and say it isn't healthy. The reality is that an apple tree must go through this season in order to prepare for its growing season. In fruit gardening, we call this time of dormancy chill hours or chill period. In order for a tree to produce fruit, it must go through this part of the year. If a tree doesn't get the proper amount of chill hours, then it won't produce fruit in its next growing season. The point is, a plant cannot continually operate as if it's always the growing season. There's always a time of dormancy. Marie and I are here today to tell you that we think this same idea can be applied to our ministry. There's a lot of talk about growing and reaching the next school, the next kid, right? And while these are great initiatives, it's important for us to think with the perspective that our young life areas will have different seasons. Sometimes it'll be growing season, and sometimes it might be a time of dormancy. So here's a quick story. In 2015, I was new to Young Life staff, full-time Young Life staff, and I was eager to help our ministry grow in the town of Coopersville. We already had a team of leaders at the high school, so the committee chair and I began to take steps to starting a team at the middle school. Forward, right? The next school, the next kid. So we had a parent interest meeting, and a few people showed up, but nothing came out of it. So we met with a couple of teachers at the school, but nothing came out of it. We tried to find some leaders, but nothing came out of it. We prayed earnestly for ministry to start, but nothing came out of it. We felt like we were trying to open doors and push things to happen, and just couldn't get anything going. What we were slow to realize was that it wasn't yet the growing season for Coopersville Middle School. So we decided to give up on our efforts and wait for God to show us when the time was right. Several months later, God showed up in the form of Maria, and the game was on. And here's Maria's story.
That's really high praise. I started leading at Coopersville High School my freshman year of college. I was 18, leading 18-year-olds. And I did that for 5 years, and it was awesome. It was really hard. I had moments where I was like, maybe I should quit. This is a lot of work. I don't know if I can necessarily do this. But for whatever reason, I felt this concept of long suffering being planted in my heart of, okay, this isn't always going to be fun, but I feel planted. I want to be here. And so then after 5 years passed, I graduated college, and I was like, okay, what's next? Probably my marketing degree. So I stepped into my marketing degree, and I got this awesome job. I work with closets.
Yeah.
It's super boring. But I work with closets. And I felt this part of my heart just kind of callous over. And I was like, I feel like there's something more that God wants from me. And though he doesn't always communicate through our feelings, I felt it in my heart that way this time. And I knew that there was a need at Coopersville, but I didn't think I was the one that was made to fill it. I started praying for that person probably like 3 years into meeting. I was like, God, bring a staff person. Bring a staff person who will start wildlife, who will build up a committee, who will create sustainability. And I never once thought that maybe I could have been praying for myself, ever. And then while my heart calloused over that 5th year, I was like, I think I need to reconsider possibly starting wildlife at Coopersville. And the moment I started considering, that was the moment this bit of life started coming back into my heart. And honestly, the rest is the Lord. All that I needed to do was say yes. It was absolutely crazy. The moment I said yes, I started praying about it. And then a month later, I got this random email from a woman. I've never had anybody like approach me about Coopersville Wildlife in the 5 years that I've been leading Young Life. And she said, hey, heard about this at church. Do you have something like Young Life for the middle school? I was like, that's weird. Okay. And I was like, no, but maybe soon. Got coffee with her. She was super interested. Then we ended up having an interest meeting a couple of months later. And I walked in my head knowing I'd know about 5 or 6 people, and there were 25 adults there. I didn't invite, they just were there. And after that, a committee of 12 people came from that room that I didn't know, but that believed in wildlife and knew that middle schoolers needed love. And then after that, I thought to myself, okay, now where did leaders come from? And then I started getting text messages. Can I lead? Can I join your team? Can we do wildlife? And I was like, do you know what that means? Are you sure? And we got together and I told them that it was a really serious, fun but serious thing where you're preaching gospel and you're walking with kids. And they said, I'm in. And I didn't have to compromise anything from my high school team. We have 6 leaders at the high school team, 7 leaders at the middle school team, and we have a club. And Coopersville Wildlife exists.
So here's another analogy for you. I like analogies. Again, if you know me, Aaron gave this away. I was supposed to just read this, Aaron. You might know that I'm a father of 2 beautiful daughters, and I love it. Hashtag girl dad. I literally have it. Seriously, I can't click on anything with Kobe and his daughter online without tearing up or crying. Anyways, part of being a parent is that wagons come back into your life. Oh, that was one of Maria's. That was cool. That's a wagon. Now, wagons are meant to be pulled. If you've ever tried to push a wagon with no one in front to guide it, then you know that it's a frustrating process. The wagon doesn't go where you want it to go. Inevitably, the front wheels will get locked to one side or the other, and you'll end up just going in a circle. And this is what it felt like for a few years when the committee chair and I were trying to get things going at Coopersville. We were spending a lot of energy, and we weren't getting anywhere. To continue to build on this analogy, I'd like to present the thought that our ministries are wagons, and our rightful place is to be behind the wagon pushing. What we need to make sure is happening is that God is in front directing it. And our job as Young Life staff people is to figure out who is the best person to be behind each wagon in our area pushing. When I tried to get behind the Coopersville Middle School wagon, God just wasn't ready to pick up the handle. But when Maria got behind it, it was clear that he was, and that's when things started happening. So, questions for you as you think about your ministry, whether you're an area director, staff associate, office admin, whatever it is. I think apply to anything. I think the next slide has mine. In what areas of your ministry is it growing season? In what areas is it not? And do you just need to name some areas that maybe it's not and some that it is? And then second thing, if you have an area that's ready to grow, who needs to be pushing that wagon? So I don't know how much time we have, but 3 or 4 minutes for that question. 3 or 4 minutes.
Whitey.